Welcome to Fueling Your Legacy, hosted by Samuel Knickerbocker. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a new, stronger foundation essential in creating your legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. Welcome to Fuel Your Legacy podcast. We are stoked for the guest we have on today. We actually connected on Instagram. I've been talking a lot over the last few months about how Instagram can change your business. And this is actually how I met Rob. And he commented on something that I had posted. I went and looked at his stuff and just really excited to talk to him and pick his brain a little bit about all the wonderful things that he's been able to accomplish in his life. But he actually started out in Brooklyn or Queens, I guess, technically, raised in a family where he was lower income status for sure, and he might get into a little bit more of that, but decided that he had a drive to win, became a chiropractor, was a chiropractor for a number of years, but just didn't find the fulfillment that he was looking for there, made a switch in his life and decided to start playing a lot harder. He has a podcast called Work Hard, Play Hard. So I encourage you all to go listen to that because it's incredible. He has him and his wife on there, and then he interviews people as well. But you get to I'm guilty of this, and this is one of the reasons why it stuck out to me. I like to work hard, but sometimes playing hard is difficult for me. So I'm excited for this conversation. But Rob, go ahead and introduce yourself and share just a little bit more about you and about your history.
Well, first of all, look, I just want to thank you for having me on the show. I'm super excited to be here and share this time with you. You're right. I was a chiropractor for the last 25 years. I grew up in Queens, New York. I came from a very abusive background. My dad was an alcoholic who banged me around a lot as a kid. Bad stuff, like hospital stuff. Definitely affected me in a large way. And it wasn't easy growing up in that environment. I had two other brothers as well, so I wasn't the only one. And we just all worked really, really hard to get out of that environment. I have one brother who's a lawyer who's about to become a judge. I have another brother who's a record executive for CBS. And I went on and got my doctorate in chiropractic. So we all did really, really well, but we had a really crappy upbringing. And I just worked really, really hard to get out of there and get a degree. I got my degree and I worked as a chiropractor for many years, 25 years. And for probably the last 10 of those years, I became very disenchanted with doing the same thing over and over and over again. In fact, if one more person told me their neck or back hurt, I was going to shoot myself in the eye. I couldn't do it. It was just too much. And I was just trying to find a way to get out of it. And I felt very, very trapped. It just wasn't easy for me to get out of. And, I look back on my life and I said, I spent so many years just working to make money, to buy a big house and to buy the Porsche and to buy expensive whatevers. And I realized that I wasn't taking the time to play. So probably I'm bouncing around a little bit, but probably about 10 years ago, I decided that I wanted to spend more time playing. And I found that when I threw the pendulum from spending all my, let's call it 30s working, and threw the pendulum in my 40s into playing, I noticed that my business started to drop. And it was like if I was either in the office working, I was making money, or if I was out of the office not working, I was losing money. And it was really, really hard for me to find that balance between working and playing. And now in my 50s, I'll be 53 this year. I've really been able to grasp that balance between working and playing, which I'm sure we'll get into in this episode.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to backtrack a little bit. Portion of our childhood seems similar, although I would say I grew up in an abusive household, but I never, that to my knowledge, I was never abused to the point that I had to go to the hospital or anything. Like I was pretty mild abuse, I guess, from that perspective. But I'm curious, do you have 3 or 4 brothers? How many siblings do you have?
One older, one younger.
One other. Okay, so there's 3 of you. And how was your guys' relationship with your parents or the rest of your older extended family?
Well, That's the last word that you said is the most operative word right now.
Absolutely. Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
So now it's great. Sadly, my dad passed last year. But prior to that, it was a slow healing process that I had to go through to forgive. And it's difficult because when you have somebody that's drinking and is an alcoholic, you could argue on the one hand that he's not in his right mind when he's drunk doing what he did, physical abuse. There's nothing sexual, it was all physical. And so as he aged and got, I think is probably a good way to put it. He mellowed, and I saw the regret by things that he would talk about and things that he would say. So I made a very slow, intentional process to reestablish a relationship as adults. And I did. And I wound up having a great relationship with him up until his passing. And I knew that, someday he wouldn't be here. And I wanted to take the time to get to know him, to forgive him, and to have no regrets if and when he passed. And so I'm glad that I did.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because that's a very similar experience to me. I went through a very similar experience. My mom was more the abuser, and my dad just, and to my recollection, right? And they would maybe have a different view of this, but he would just sit there a lot of times and let it happen. And that's its own form of abuse and neglect versus like abuse. But I made the decision as well to forgive. And I think because this is about legacy, and that's the purpose of the show, is how do you fuel your legacy? For me, a large part of my childhood, I had blanked out. I had kind of fought against it for the latter half of my teenage years and early 20s. I'm only 25, so I'm rather young comparatively, but I'd fight against it. And it wasn't until I really chose to let it all go that now I was able to go back into my past, back into my childhood, and pick the things that were good, that I do, I recognize from my parents that I do want to contribute and do want to pass on in a form of a legacy. Because there was a lot of great things that my parents taught me, even though maybe the method was really sucky, or the process of me learning those. I wouldn't trade my life with anybody. All the abuse, all that, I would never trade it with anybody because of what it taught me and who I became. And to your point, you said your brothers, all three of you have become successful people. And there's always that question of well, what would we have become if we just had it super easy? And who knows?
Well, Lena, listen, that is a $64,000 question, right? Are you who you are because of the circumstances you went through? And the answer is probably yes. It's nature and nurture for sure. And, we all, without getting too woo-woo or spiritual, but we all have this path that we're on. And sometimes it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But when you look back on the various things that have happened in your life, you go, oh, okay, I see why that happens. That happened to teach me this. And because that happened, I now do this. And I would have never learned that lesson. For example, I am a really good dad. And I'm a good dad because I'm super sensitive to being a bad one. So, my children, this is going to sound crazy, but my children, I have two. I have a 21-year-old. She was 21 last week. I have a daughter almost your age, 21, and a 4-year-old daughter. Have a better dad because of my history. So you're right.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. So I'm curious, if you could tell me the story of when you really first started thinking about your legacy, and when the penny started to drop, crap, I'm going to be dead one day, and what am I leaving to my children? What type of example or what type of life am I leaving behind me? Or maybe that hasn't even come yet. Who knows? I'm just curious.
Well, I have a little bit of a differing ethos to your show title, at the risk of being controversial, and I don't mean
go for it.
Okay. I used to really embrace the idea of legacy. And I think legacy is one of those things where you have to define. what legacy means to you, right? Because everybody's got a different impression, but it's certainly one of those words that conjures up an image for somebody. Mm-hmm. And for me, because I sort of like look at life for me in chapters, right? There was the 20-year-old, the 30-year-old, the 40-year-old, now the 50-year-old, and then there's going to be the 60-year-old. They're all different. I mean, what I thought I was leaving as a quote legacy at 20 is radically different than what I think I'm leaving at 50. And I can already tell that it's going to be different at 60 as well. So I don't know that we have a legacy that we leave. I think we have multiple legacies. Mm-hmm. I think we have multiple things that we accomplish in our lives based on where our passions are, our interests are, and our level of understanding. For example, at 20 years old, I didn't have much of a consciousness about worldviews that I do at 50 years old. And so it's just different for me at different stages. So right now, the legacy that I'm currently working on is probably two. I want to be able to impact my children in such a way that when I leave this planet, that the work that I've done are ripple effects through both of them. Another legacy that I want to leave behind is, I think, young men in particular, and certainly women as well, but in my experience, maybe because I'm a man, but tend to work too damn much. And as a result of that aggressive, I'm going to conquer the world. I just listened to a Gary V podcast, and I'm going to eat your face off, and I'm going to make a $10 million, $100 million company. There comes a time when you get a little older, hopefully, that you look back and you go, I missed a lot of years. I missed a lot of years with my kids, with my marriage, with my health, with fun. And I hit that point not too long ago where I looked and I said, I have never sat and looked at a painting, like really looked at it, went to a museum and studied it and knew, understood art or understood wine and where, how wine is created, or opera, or there's so many things that because I viewed them as inconveniences along the path to me conquering the world to make millions and millions of dollars, that I've now hit a point in my life where I'm embracing those things and I'm studying about those things. In fact, in a couple of months, I'm leaving to spend 4 months traveling Europe for just that purpose.
I'm jealous of that for sure.
That's awesome. We're I'll show you the list in a little while where we're going, but we're going to spend 4 months just, I've been emailing this morning with an art curator in Florence, Italy, about where we're going to go and what we're going to do and what I'm going to learn. And so the legacy that I want to leave for that is I want to be able to impact people through the podcast and through my mastermind to be able to spend more time playing. And I just brought 20 people through a weekend in Boston that it was the first ever Work Hard, Play Hard mastermind. And we did a lot of fun stuff. I hired Tom Brady's trainer to train us on pliability. We went to his TB12 headquarters. I had a guy who wrote a book called How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci meet us in the North End of Boston. And he taught us how Leonardo da Vinci thinks. We rented a restaurant out and we did a comparative wine tasting where he taught us how to notice the difference between one glass of wine and the other. And I hired somebody from the Metropolitan Opera House to come in and sing opera. And then we ended that night with a poetry contest. And it was really hysterical to watch these high-end entrepreneurs listen to opera and do a poetry contest. And so we did, there was all kinds of things that we did throughout that weekend. And I've got another one coming up in June in the south of France in Monaco, where I'm taking these guys. We're going to rent vintage cars and we're going to go vintage car racing through the French Riviera. And then I've got the last one coming up is in October, and that's in Florence, Italy, which is what I'm preparing for now. We're going to go hot air ballooning over Florence. We're going to go truffle hunting. go back to the villa and take a cooking class with a grandma Italian lady. So anyway, very long answer to your question, but the legacy that I hope to leave behind is that I can impact their life in such a way that they look back and they say, because you came in my life, every 100 days or so, I stopped and I traveled around the world with you and I had freaking amazing experiences. Because what I've found is that you never get great ideas in front of a computer. You always get them. When I ask people where they get them, they say in the shower. It's because there's nothing there, right? There's just nothing. It's you and the water. Well, it's the same thing when you take a trip with a bunch of cool people. You get your best ideas because you're not on your phone. You're not in your computer. You're doing something with cool people. So that's the legacy. And as you can tell, I'm passionate about it.
No, I think that's awesome. Because that's something that from my position of what I do professionally, that's like my person who I market to, my avatar, is basically exactly that. Somebody who has built an empire, somebody who has built the financial success, if you can even call it that. Well, it's financial success, I guess, but they're just left unfulfilled. They're now looking back and like, wow, what did I chase? Right. And for me, I had an experience when I was in college. I was going to go to school and be a neurosurgeon and neuropsychologist because I just loved, I still love this, like reading that research more than anything. I was describing it to a friend the other day. I was like, it's like meeting your wife for the first time again, like getting all the butterflies, Twitter-pated, just giggly. That's how I feel when I start reading neuropsychology research. Like, I just love the stuff. But when it gets down to it, really, it's like, that's not the life I wanted to, the lifestyle of that career field is not what I wanted for my family. And my psychology teacher, she challenged me to say, okay, well, she told me a story of a guy who wanted to climb Mount Everest, started when he was 30, failed, and went every 3 or 4 years after that and still just failed. Now he's 55, 60 years old, and his kids are wondering, hey, Dad, when is this going to end? When are you going to be done trying to climb this mountain? And he said, look, this is my dream, and I'm going up, and there's only 2 ways I'm coming down off that mountain. Either I planted my flag at the top of it, or I died on the side trying. And thinking about, okay, what are you really willing to die on the side of trying? Like, what mountain are you going to climb for your life, dying on the side trying? And you nailed it right on the head. Generally, men get to where they're 35, 45 years old. They look back and they're like, what? I just missed the first 15 years of my kid's life. And I've got a pile of money to show for it, a crappy marriage, a big house, a car, and what? This is not what I planned.
I'll tell you what I see happen. A lot of times when you don't heed that warning, you get the pile of money and you lose it. You unconsciously wind up either spending it, making bad investments, because you hit a point where I was on one of the guys that joined my mastermind. He said, maybe this will be a better mastermind for me to join next year when things calm down a little. I said, you're 50 years old now. Have they calmed down yet? No. I said, what's your company worth? He said, $100 million. I said, you've got $100 million company and you're going to put it off for 1 more year. 1 more. And he's like, yeah, it sounds stupid, doesn't it? I said, yeah, it does. And he is, at the end of this last trip in Boston, he grabbed me and gave me a big kiss. And he said, dude, I would have never done this if you didn't grab me by the neck and force me to do this. And here's the thing. This you're going to get a kick out of. 10 of the 20 people in my mastermind a week before the mastermind called me up and said, dude, I'm too busy. I can't make it. I said, I don't give a shit. Get on the plane. It wasn't the money. It wasn't it was just, I have so much going on. I can't do this. I told every single one of them, I said, get on the plane. You're hiring me to force you to stop and play and have fun. Do it. And every single one of them said, okay. Then when I got them there, the day before we were going to see Tom Brady's trainer, 5 of them said, hey man, look, I'm gonna have to stay in the hotel this morning. I'll meet you guys for dinner tonight. I have so much to catch up on my emails. I said, I don't give a shit. There's a bus waiting outside. Get your ass on the damn bus. And then So it's like they're babies because they are programmed for the last 30 years of their life to achieve, to accomplish, and they don't prioritize play. But it is in the play that you have a more well-rounded life, and coincidentally, your business grows too.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be curious to find out what happened to these people's businesses in the next 6 months after they left the thing, because that's going to be the cool part when you can say, look, these people came, they were willing to take a week out of their life or whatever it is. I don't know how long it is, but they were willing to take this small amount of time. And what that did for them when they went back was, I mean, I do the same thing because literally yesterday I was on Facebook inviting a guy, he's a handyman, to a seminar that I'm speaking at. And I went through this seminar the first time, and it almost doubled my income when I went through because it was like, help me reframe some things. And he's like, oh, people aren't I can't charge people enough. They're undercutting my business or whatever. I was like, look, you need to come to this seminar. And he's like, I don't know. I'm so busy. I just got a new truck. I got to work. And I was like, look, dude, 2 days, it's only going to take 2 days of your time, but what it's going to do for you, if you could double your income next week, like, why would you not be there?
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't make sense, but people, they struggle with it in their mind to actually make that leap of jump. So I'm glad that you're in the space of forcing people to have fun.
I make them do it. And I also charge them a lot of money.
that always helps. But the thing is, like, what's a lot of money to to somebody who has $100 million company, the lot of money that you're charging them is probably still less than their payroll. I mean, it's less than their property taxes on their house. Like, it seems like a lot of money to somebody who's not making any, but to somebody who has $100 million, it's not a lot of money. Like, they feel comfortable still, or somewhat comfortable, blowing you off and saying, look, I just can't make it. It's too much, right? They would rather lose the whatever you charge them, maybe $100,000, or I have no idea what you charge them, but they'd rather lose that investment than step away for a week.
Yeah, it's true. One of the guys, you're right. One of the guys, he emailed me probably, I don't know, like 2 weeks before the trip. And he said, dude, I completely forgot to pay you. I go, no, you paid me. And he's like, I did? I'm like, you did.
You can pay again if you so desire.
Do you like Joe Dispenza?
Oh, dude, I love his stuff.
He's a chiro.
Blows my mind.
He's a chiropractor.
Yeah, I didn't know that he was a chiropractor until I just read his book.
Break the Habit of Being Yourself?
No, I think it was Evolve Your Brain. I read the.
They're all good. They're all great.
They're all good, but it's funny because I'm listening to his book, and it's just like, this is the stuff that I studied in college. This is he takes it to another level than what I studied. I studied all just like the actual physical brain connections and stuff. But my whole goal in studying neuropsychology was because of my abusive background, and I recognized my mom was off her rocker. Was she in her right mind, not in her right mind? Irrelevant, really. But the whole idea of psychology is that it's a study of behavior, and behavior is based on how your brain is structured. So I was like, okay, well, how does the brain get structured? What decides how a brain is structured? And I thought initially that I would have the biggest pain or be able to have the biggest impact by studying chemistry and finding out the chemical environment that our moms are in when we're still in utero, right? What's the chemical environment that they're in that our brain is being developed in, which then would create the structure, which is important. But what I found in the research, and this is what blew my mind, I never expected to be in finance, never in a million years. But what I found was all of those things, they do contribute. But then when you go back one step further, why are you in the chemical environment that you're in, and why are you not getting out of it? Why are you eating crappy food? Why are you drinking bad water? Why are you in a polluted place because you can't move, right? It comes down to people don't know how to use money. It's not that they don't have money. There's a lot of people who make a ton of money, but they don't know how to use it. They don't understand the rules of it. They're good at accumulating it, but they don't know how the rules of money, the game of money actually works. And so I took my whole shift, everything that I was going into neuropsychology, my dream didn't change. I still want to impact the same people. But what I realized was as important as neuropsychology is, as important as that stuff is, I don't think that's where it starts. It starts with like helping people understand money to a point where they can actually make the decisions to have a different chemical environment.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's a different twist. You're coming at finances from a psychological perspective, and let's be honest. It's all mindset.
Oh, absolutely.
It's all mindset.
Yeah. So anyways, but I love the research. The research just
great, man.
Gets me going. It's fun.
Awesome.
So I think this whole conversation is really your secret weapon in my mind of what is helping you right now identify and build your legacy is really the work hard, play hard, play between. But go into a little bit more depth in that. Like, what have you found and why that's so crucial for people to understand and actually apply?
Because I think in life there is a yin yang. There just is. There is no, if you're somebody that becomes obsessive about your body and you're watching every single macronutrient that goes in your mouth and you're training like an athlete, you never have a glass of wine, you never have a cupcake, you never have dessert, you're really boring. And if you're somebody that is, only sitting on the couch eating Doritos and getting fat, you're really boring the other way. Every single thing in life, everything is balance. So is there perfect balance in life? No, there's not perfect balance. We put momentum into things. But the point is that whatever area we're talking about, there has to be balance. And I think the totality of your life, whether it's learning about what I'm doing now, which is wine and opera and history, which I never gave a shit about previously in my life, right? But the lessons that I'm learning from, I'll give you an example. I just learned that Leonardo da Vinci, first of all, Bill Gates bought 8 pages of Da Vinci's notebook for $32 million, okay? 8 pages. That's how genius this guy was. They found in his notebook, check this out. They found a parachute, a drawing, a schematic for a parachute. And under it, it said, in the event that a flying machine is ever created, we're going to need to know how to get out of it. I mean, it's crazy. And those are the dimensions that we actually use for a parachute now. So history tells a lot about the future. So everything has to do, I think, with how you are putting the balance in your life. So it's the same for work and play. If you just work all the time and you don't play, or if you do what I did, which is in my 40s, I was like, screw work. I'm just going to go play. And I wound up spending a bunch of money, putting a bunch of stuff on the credit card because I wanted to be spraying champagne in Saint-Tropez. And it was cool and it was fun. But I was like, there's only so much partying on the beach you can do. And after a while, you start to go, well, my conversations I'm having with these people on the beach, these are business people, and I'm not really in business at all. And so finding that balance between taking the entrepreneurial drive that I have and putting it into something that creates something, and taking the play that I want to have and putting it into something is the dance between the two.
Mm-hmm. So how do you, because I know there's people on there who are like me. I've been at this point in my life a few times, and still to this day, it's something that I have to force myself to go play. Thankfully, my wife is like, honey, leave your phone at home. We're just going to go experience this. My wife is awesome. Love her to death. But it is difficult, to actually unplug. And what I found, even on a week-long cruise or something, the first 2 days I was spending just trying to unplug. Then I was enjoying it for the next 2 days. And then the last 2 days, I'm already starting to gear up mentally to get back into it so that I can hit the ground running, right? Which is just a stupid thing that I play with myself. But I've heard a lot from entrepreneurs that I've interviewed that the trick is turning or choosing to do what you love so that you feel like you're playing, but you're really working. Right? So what would you say to those people who think that? Because I know it's not true. You know it's not true. But what would you say to the people who think that they're actually playing, but they're actually just working?
That's a tricky one. That one comes up a lot because when I interview people on my podcast, that comes up a lot. And one of the questions I ask them, I split my show into 2 sections. One is I try and teach them something entrepreneurial because I call it entrepreneurial porn because I need it. And then the other side of it is the fulfillment side, right? And so one of the questions that I ask them is what's something that you're doing that lights you up outside of work? And the answer I'll get is what you just basically said, which is, well, I don't really do anything outside of work because I love what I do. And the problem with that is that it's not that it's not true. It is true. They do love what they do.
They're addicted to it.
But they're addicted to it. And what's also true is that there's other things that they're ignoring and not doing because they love what they're doing so much. So I would say to those people, and that, you know, not everybody loves what they do. I loved what I did for probably the first 5 or 10 years, but then I became bored with it and then I hated it. It was something that I didn't want to do anymore. So I fell into that category. I fell into both of those categories at different times in my life.
Right.
But if you love doing what you're doing and that's all you do, you're still freaking boring. You're still not well-rounded. There are still so many. We are not meant to be, my opinion, we are not meant to be so one-dimensional that if you're in love with finance, that all you do is finance. You wake up in the morning and you can't wait to give lectures on it. You can't wait to get on the phone calls with it. You know, your wife is going to say, like, you got anything else for me? Like, is there anything else in there that you're interested in? Is there anything else that you're passionate about? And a lot of times I think people use that when they're so myopic and so one-sided and have such blinders on that that's all that they love to do. They should stop and say, I love to do this, and I'm also going to experience these other things. And ask yourself, like, what would I love to do that has nothing to do with the kind of work that I do? And then you'll get answers. And the answers will be, I want to learn guitar. I want to learn Japanese. I want to go surfing. I want to learn about art, you know, et cetera. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think that's exactly, it's what I've seen happen in my life. And that's what I've seen over and over and over show up with people that I've worked with who are, and it's showed up in my life as well. Just like you said, at different points in your life, you were there. It's shown up in my life, and I've had to choose to get out and do things. And I was homeschooled, which doesn't have like a ton of bearing here, but one of the things that we did in our homeschool curriculum is we got to experience a lot of different things, and wasn't like just the general core curriculum that you get generally in a public school, but we went to different churches. I've been to so many different churches I don't even know. So we just studied a lot of different things, went to concerts, went to success seminars, went just everything, camping, traveling the world to hot springs, just different things that are just fun to do and experiences. And we got exposed to a lot of different types of music. So like I love opera. I would have loved to be there. I think opera's the coolest music.
It's great.
I don't understand how it happens. I wish it was in English, but English opera is terrible. So
yeah, this lady that we hired to come sing for us. She was like I said, from the Metropolitan Opera House. And she was like, she's beautiful. She was like 95 pounds, you know?
I thought you were going to say 95 years old, and I was like, dang.
No. She was 95 pounds. A really, really thin girl. Her name's Deborah Demansky. And she started to sing. And I'm telling you, I just got chills again. Within 15 minutes, I'd say 75%, 15 seconds, 75% of the room were just bawling. I never saw anything like it. And it sounded like the sounds, like she was singing, you know, here out of her mouth, obviously. It filled the room in, like, you didn't know where the sound was coming from. And her face, she had this like, before she started, it was there was no music. It was a cappella, I guess.
Uh-huh.
And I talked to her after it, and I said, I saw you like close your eyes, and you took like 10, 15 seconds before you started to sing and you started to smile. What were you doing? She said, well, that song was about a girl who had a lost love in Italy, and she was standing on the Arno River, and she was about to jump off the river and kill herself over a boy. And it was about the love and the pain that she was experiencing. So I had to become this 14-year-old girl before I could sing it. And I was like it was some like voodoo stuff. And she did it. And I was like, whoa, it was incredible. But, you know, normally I went to opera and I fell asleep. But now at this stage in my life, I'm like, I want to understand this.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. So I have a few more questions, but I'm curious, how can people get access to you, obviously, or learn more about you and what your mission is and what you're bringing to the world currently?
Well, I think a good place to start would be if you want to go to my website, workhardplayhardmasterminds.com. You can click around and you can get access to my podcast and or get links to my podcast on iTunes. We go in and out of the top 100 on iTunes. You can follow me on Instagram. I am one of those annoying guys that Instagram constantly, Insta story constantly, different things as I travel around the world. So you get to see that. Tomorrow we're actually packing up again. We're leaving for New York for 3-4 days. I'm going to go walk around Brooklyn, check that spot out. If you think that my mastermind may be for you, fill out an application, and if you're a good fit, we'll jump on the call and see if it works for both of us.
Awesome. And what is your Instagram handle again?
It's my name, Rob Murgatroyd. You'll have to link it up in the show notes.
It'll be in the show notes for sure, because it gave me a tongue twister. Okay, perfect. So this is Legacy on Rapid Fire. It's just kind of going over some things that to get you know you a little bit better, specifically on what you've done in the past and where you're going in the future. So this is like meant to be either 3-word to 1-sentence answers, not a lot of discussion here. So first question, what is holding you back from reaching your next level in your business or legacy today?
More belief in myself.
Okay. What is the hardest thing that you've ever accomplished?
Being the dad I want to be.
Awesome. And what is your greatest success to this point in your life?
Being the dad I became.
Awesome. That's cool. What's one of those secrets that you think you have that contributes most to your success?
Insatiable curiosity.
Awesome. They're going to have to look that one up. Okay. And what book or books would you recommend to the Fuel Your Legacy audience that they could go learn more about either something that's inspired you or how to have more fun and work hard at the same time or separate times?
You know what, man? I have to give it to my boy Tim Ferriss with his 4-hour work week. I just don't know a better handbook that discusses both work and play more efficiently than that book does.
Awesome. Yeah, I've read that book. It's been years since I read that book. I feel like it's a good one though.
Yeah.
Okay. So final question here is, now you're dead. Okay. So you're dead. We're now 6 generations down. So like we're talking about your children's children's children. Okay.
How did I die?
How did you die? Well, I don't know.
Was it tragic? Because if it's tragic, that may affect my aunt. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
No, okay. You can tell me how you died in this moment right here. Okay. So the question is, your great 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 grandchildren are talking to each other and to their friends about you and your life. What do you want them to be saying? What do you want your legacy to be 6 generations from now?
He truly lived the life he wanted to live, unapologetically.
Awesome. Let's all go do that. Let's make an effort today to live our life the way we want to, unapologetically. Forget what anybody else thinks we should be doing and just live how we want to. So thanks so much, Rob. And then definitely if any of you guys take a picture of this, a snapshot, post it on social media, tag Rob and I in it, and we'll give you a shout out on the next podcast. And we'll let you go. But thank you so much for your time, Rob. I appreciate it.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. If what you heard resonated with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me so I can give you a shout out on the next episode. And thanks to all those who have left a review. It helps spread the message of what it really takes to build a legacy that lasts. catch you next time on Fueling Your Legacy.